You are a dictator chef, the unluckiest job in the food industry. Every day feels less like cooking and more like surviving a hostage situation with knives and frying pans. Forget Michelin stars or creative menus. Your entire career is one long episode of Hell's Kitchen, where the punishment for screwing up isn't a mean comment. It's a firing squad. You don't plate meals, you defuse bombs disguised as dinner, and every single bite has to be perfect not for taste, but for survival. The paranoia in the air is so thick you can smell it stronger than garlic. Guards with rifles stand by the door as you chop vegetables, watching you like you're about to smuggle cyanide into the soup. Before the dictator touches a fork, you taste every dish first, smiling like it's fine dining, while your stomach churns wondering if this spoonful is going to be your last. You can't explain mistakes nor ask for a second chance. This isn't an episode of Chopped where judges shrug and say, "Interesting flavor." This is more like playing Russian roulette with a ladle. The dictator takes a bite, chews slowly, and the room goes dead silent. Everyone watching his expression like it's the Super Bowl. The moment he nods, you breathe again. The moment he frowns, your soul leaves your body. Guards don't blink, knives stay on the cutting board, and you're one misplaced grain of salt away from disappearing like yesterday's leftovers. Pop culture never warned you about this nightmare. Ratatouille said anyone can cook, but it didn't add the footnote: as long as your boss isn't a paranoid tyrant with execution squads on speed dial. Working for a dictator is like starring in Hell's Kitchen mixed with The Sopranos. Gordon Ramsay screaming "it's raw" is child's play compared to the dictator staring at you with dead eyes while deciding if your omelet is sabotage. At least Ramsay doesn't have the power to erase your entire family tree because you overcook pasta. Even the perks of the job are poison gifts. You have access to the rarest ingredients on Earth: truffles flown in from Italy, fish caught hours ago in Japan, lobsters delivered alive in tanks. But none of it tastes like success. To you, it all tastes like fear. Every bite you prepare is one you have to take yourself first, swallowing mouthfuls of paranoia while pretending it's fine dining. You stand there, fork in hand, forcing a smile, hoping your stomach doesn't suddenly knot from nerves. Because even the smallest cough can send the guards into a frenzy. It's not about flavor, it's about trust, and trust doesn't exist here. And the worst part? Nobody outside that palace will ever know your name. You're invisible, a ghost chef, someone whose entire career is locked away in secrecy. While celebrity chefs sell cookbooks and star in Netflix specials, you're in the shadows, sweating through your apron, the most important cook in the world whose only audience is a man who might kill you tomorrow. Your life is a sitcom written by Quentin Tarantino, and every new episode starts with the same line in your head: "Don't screw this up, or you're done." Breakfast starts with a taste test where you put your own life on the line. Before the boss touches a fork, you swallow the first spoonful, smiling like you're on live television, while guards watch every twitch in your face. If you stay standing, the dish passes inspection. If you choke or cough, even on a crumb, chaos erupts like someone hit the nuclear launch button. No Michelin star restaurant demands that the chef eats before the guests, but here it is law, and every bite is proof of loyalty. By lunchtime, you are already sweating through your uniform, waiting for the next ridiculous order. The menu is never logical. One day he wants mangoes in the middle of a snowstorm. The next is pasta, exactly like his mother made in 1952, though no one has the recipe. You scramble across supply chains like an action hero on a grocery run, hiding saffron in sealed crates, smuggling spices through airports with more security than a Rolling Stones concert. The dictator's appetite is a global scavenger hunt, except you are not competing for money, you are competing for your life. Then come the banquets. Picture dozens of tables loaded with roasted meats, towers of fruit, champagne flowing like water, and nobody touching a single thing. Guests sit frozen, waiting until the dictator picks up his fork. Sometimes he barely nibbles. Sometimes he skips the meal entirely, leaving you staring at enough untouched food to feed a small city. Imagine spending days preparing a feast only to watch it rot untouched under crystal chandeliers. It feels less like cooking and more like performing a magic trick where the audience never claps. The paranoia bleeds into every detail. Plates are counted, knives inspected, kitchen staff rotated like pieces on a chessboard so no one gets too comfortable. Guards check your pockets as if you might be carrying secret weapons in your apron. Even the water bottles are suspicious, uncapped, and sniffed before being served. You thought cooking was about creativity, but here it is, a security protocol wrapped in a recipe. Pop culture comparisons barely scratch the surface. It is like being Jarvis to Tony Stark, managing impossible requests with no thanks. Except you do not get the suit of armor, and messing up the salt could actually get you executed. Every order is a new demand that bends reality. Strawberries in December, milk from a single cow on a specific farm, bread baked in an oven designed like the one from his childhood kitchen. You live in constant improvisation, a personal Iron Man without gadgets, building miracles out of groceries while the threat of death hangs over your head. And through it all, you have to keep a straight face, serving every plate with calm precision as if nothing is wrong. To the outside world, it looks like fine dining, but inside the kitchen, it is survival dressed up with garnish. You sleep in a pantry because the closer you are to the stove, the safer they feel, and that joke follows you all day. Friends ask where you work and you give the same dull answer, a hotel kitchen downtown, because the truth would end the friendship or the contract. Holidays become alarms. Birthdays become timestamps. Dinner plans die the moment a driver texts standby now. Your suitcase stays packed and your shoes point toward the door. You fall asleep listening for radios in the hallway and wake at the first hinge squeak. You are not allowed to say who you feed or where you are. Photos are forbidden and souvenirs do not exist. You keep a second wardrobe with no logos and a second name for suppliers who must never know where the boxes go. Silence becomes a uniform. You get very good at keeping secrets and very bad at small talk. You laugh more than you should because laughter is the only safe answer when someone asks what you did last weekend. You say meal prep. Your hands smell like bleach and garlic. Sleep comes in short chapters. Meals happen standing over a pan. Anxiety eats first. You learn to pack in 2 minutes and leave no trace except a spotless stove. You become the best chef nobody knows. Television crowns celebrities for plating phone while you plate silence. You practice a smile that calms people with guns and swallow opinions, with the same discipline you use when you swallow the first bite at every meal. You avoid alcohol because loose tongues are expensive, and clubs because cameras live there. The job feels like being the roadie of a 90s stadium band. If you vanish, the show collapses, but nobody chants your name. You check doors twice and burners 3 times. On bad days, you reload the same hallway like an old video game level. Your skills peak during a period when you cannot show a plate to anyone. You perfect timing and texture behind frosted glass. Date nights become ghost stories. You cancel until people stop inviting you. Sometimes you step outside for 5 minutes at noon and the sun on your face feels like a luxury brand. The door is always open only to pull you back through it. The better you become, the smaller your world gets. Trust brings tighter circles, and tighter circles erase sunlight. You cannot tell stories or keep friends or put your name on anything you make. You go to sleep listening for keys and locks and wake before they turn. You tell yourself it is temporary, and then a year passes, and you are still measuring soup the way astronauts measure oxygen, deciding exactly how much you need to live through one more night. When the joke stop, the reality hits harder than any kitchen nightmare show could script. The most infamous example is Kenji Fujimoto, a Japanese sushi chef who worked for Kim Jong-il in North Korea during the 1990s. In his memoir published in 2003, he described being flown on private jets to Tokyo just to purchase boxes of sea urchin and crates of sashimi-grade fish, then forced to rush them back to Pyongyang so the leader could enjoy them the same day. He recalled entire shipments of lobster brought in daily, tanks filled and emptied only to prove that nothing was poison. Fujimoto admitted that every single dish passed his lips first, He was required to smile while chewing, guards staring for signs of discomfort. Because if he showed fear, the meal would never reach the table. He lived under constant surveillance until he finally fled the country in disguise, terrified that speaking out would trigger assassins. Iraq under Saddam Hussein showed the same paranoia. Multiple cooks rotated through the palaces, but each worked under the eye of the Republican Guard. In 2004, former staff told reporters that even sealed bottles of water were opened and tested before being placed near the dining hall. The dictator demanded meals in several different residences at once, so no one could predict where he would actually appear. The purpose was not indulgence, it was survival through confusion, a way to prevent any one chef from knowing too much. The kitchen became another battlefield, one where every flavor carried suspicion. Uganda in the 1970s under Idi Amin took cruelty even further. Witnesses claimed he swapped entire kitchen teams weekly, sometimes daily, convinced that loyalty spoiled with time. Cooks vanished without explanation. A dish served at the wrong temperature could lead to a chef never returning home. Paranoia blurred with brutality until meals themselves became instruments of terror. For the staff, there was no recipe for safety. Every menu felt like a lottery where the prize was living until sunrise. Muammar Gaddafi's Libya revealed a different kind of fear. In 2010, one of his former chefs told Italian journalists that the leader demanded food prepared under round-the-clock camera surveillance. Every corner of the kitchen was filmed. Guards reviewed footage constantly, and any pause or hesitation might be read as a signal of betrayal. Even routine actions, like washing vegetables, were scrutinized for hidden meaning. One misplaced gesture could be reinterpreted as treason. The chef remembered nights where he cooked not for a man, but for the gaze of dozens of lenses, knowing that if Gaddafi doubted his loyalty, the punishment would not be a firing but imprisonment or worse. These are not exaggerated legends. They are documented accounts with names, dates, and places attached. They prove that the absurd tension you imagine in a palace kitchen was real for those who lived it. Behind every plated lobster tail or bowl of soup stood men terrified of their own craft, professionals whose skills kept them alive for another meal, until fortune ran out. You stand in a kitchen built like a palace, surrounded by ovens plated in steel, shelves stacked with truffles, saffron, and wine worth more than houses, yet none of it feels like luxury. Every ingredient reminds you that your life costs less than the salt you sprinkle. The paradox is cruel. You have the kind of budget celebrity chefs dream about, a pantry that could feed five-star hotels, and the finest tools ever forged, but the reward for excellence is survival, not recognition. In a normal restaurant, the worst review comes in the form of a bad tip or a nasty Yelp comment. Here the review is measured in heartbeats. Approval means silence. Disapproval can mean a bullet. You do not chase stars. You dodge death. The longer you cook in these conditions, the clearer the absurdity becomes. All the food that passes through your hands is treated like treasure, yet you are not. Lobsters fly across continents. Fruits are harvested out of season. Rice polished to perfection, but the man cooking them is disposable. Your skills are unmatched, but they are wasted in secrecy, locked in a role where your only legacy is that you managed not to die at work. You cook meals for one of the most powerful men alive, yet you are invisible, unable to sign your name to a recipe, or even admit where you work. You are the hidden ghost behind every banquet, the shadow no guest dares to acknowledge, a master of flavors who is never allowed to taste freedom. The cost of error is what makes the job unbearable. A burnt sauce in a Paris restaurant earns criticism, maybe humiliation, but never a firing squad. A bland dessert in a hotel kitchen means the guest sends it back, not the guards. In this world, every mistake, even one invisible to anyone else, carries the weight of accusation. Too much salt can be read as sabotage. Too little seasoning can be called treason. You are forced to live every second balancing between craft and fear, cooking not for joy but for survival. The silence after a meal is what keeps you alive. No applause, no reviews, no tips. Only the heavy pause in the dining hall when the dictator sets down his fork. If he stands, you breathe. If he stares too long, you freeze. That pause replaces any paycheck or promotion. It is the true measure of your work. Luxury without safety, prestige without freedom, recognition without name. It is a career stripped of everything except the will to keep breathing. Being a dictator chef is not cooking for a living. It is cooking not to die.